He expected you to cry, beg, and plead. That's the game he's been playing all along. He thinks you're weak, a desperate soul, but this time, you give him silence. You give him a memory that will haunt him forever. Let's get something straight right now. You're here because deep down, you know you're tired of his games. You're tired of being underestimated, strung along, and left wondering what you did wrong. But here's the reality. You didn't do anything wrong. The problem isn't you. It's him. And today, we're not just exposing his manipulative tactics. We're tearing them apart. If you're ready to become the woman he can't forget, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into what's about to change your life. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, buckle up. You've been living in his little game for far too long, and I'm here to remind you that the rules are about to change. Think of this as the moment where the script flips, where you stop being his emotional punching bag and start being the woman who makes him regret every single second he took you for granted. Let me break it down for you. He thought you'd crumble. Every time he ignored your messages, every time he cancelled plans, every time he pulled away, he expected tears. He thought he could control you with his silence, his hot and cold behavior, his little games. And why wouldn't he? You let him believe that his inconsistency, his lack of effort, was acceptable. But not anymore. Imagine this. He's a magician, pulling the same tired tricks from his hat. But here's the catch. His tricks only work if you let them. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop giving him the attention he craves, his illusions fall apart. You become the one thing he didn't expect, a woman who doesn't need him to feel whole. And trust me, that scares him more than anything. I read a story on a forum recently about a woman who was in your shoes. She gave her all to a man who breadcrumbed her for years. Every time she tried to move on, he'd swoop in with sweet words and empty promises, pulling her back into the same cycle of pain. One day she stopped responding. She went silent. And you know what happened? He panicked. He couldn't handle the void she left. He begged. He pleaded. He made every excuse in the book. But by then, she had already moved on, and he was left to deal with the weight of his own regrets. That could be you. The truth is, he's not as strong as he pretends to be. Men like him thrive on control, on keeping you on a leash, because deep down, they're terrified of a woman who knows her worth. A woman who doesn't need their half-hearted attention. A woman who, when pushed too far, decides to disappear without a trace. Silence, my queen, is your greatest weapon. So, look at yourself right now. Look at what he's turned you into. Someone who cries over missed texts. Someone who checks her phone 100 times a day. Someone who lets her happiness depend on a man who doesn't even deserve her presence. Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you giving him the satisfaction of thinking he's won? He hasn't. Not yet. But that changes today. Say this out loud. I owe him nothing. I owe myself everything. Write it in the comments. Write it for other women who need to hear it. Write it for the universe. But most importantly, write it for yourself. Because when you declare it, when you truly believe it, you take back every ounce of power he tried to steal from you. And that's the moment his world crumbles. Stay with me, because we're just getting started. What comes next will not only make him regret every single game he played, it'll transform you into the woman he'll never be able to forget. Let's get into it. Number 1, the lies you've believed. So, my dear, let's have a real talk. Why is it that women are always the ones left to pick up the pieces? Why are you the one told to endure, to forgive, to wait? Why are men allowed to find themselves, to be confused, while you're expected to bend, to be patient, to sacrifice? Do you know what that is? Lies. Lies that society has been feeding you your entire life. Lies that have chained you to heartbreak and self-doubt. Lies that make you believe you're not enough unless you're everything to him. Let me tell you something. You are enough. You've always been enough. The problem isn't you. It was never you. The problem is this world that told you love means pain, that sacrifice is devotion, that your tears are proof of how deeply you care. But love isn't supposed to hurt like this. Love isn't a test where you have to prove your worth every single day, hoping he'll notice. But that's exactly what they want you to believe, isn't it? Because if you believe it, you'll stay. You'll keep waiting, keep hoping, keep tolerating less than you deserve. And him? He made sure you believed it too. He wanted you to think you were the problem. Every time he pulled away, every time he disappeared, he wanted you to question yourself, to wonder if you were too much, or worse, not enough. And the worst part, you believed him, because you've been conditioned to think that a man's silence is your failure, that his indifference is your inadequacy. But let me tell you something right now. His behavior isn't about you. It's about him, his games, his inconsistency, his constant need to keep you guessing. That's not love. That's control. He's like a fisherman, casting his line with just enough bait to keep you hooked. And when he reels you in, when he gets what he wants, he tosses you back into the water. He doesn't care about the damage he's done, the hurt he's caused, and you're left wondering what you did wrong. But here's the truth. You did nothing wrong. The problem isn't your love. The problem is his selfishness, his inability to value you, to show up, to give you what you deserve. But nobody wants to tell you that, do they? Instead, they tell you to try harder, to be more patient, to forgive. They tell you he's just scared of commitment or working on himself. Lies. Every word of it is a lie. Let's decode his favorite lies, shall we? I'm busy. Translation, you're not a priority. I'm confused. Translation, I want control without commitment. I need space. Translation, I want the freedom to do whatever I want while keeping you on standby. Does any of this sound like love to you? Because it doesn't to me. Love isn't breadcrumbs. It isn't confusion. It isn't one-sided. And it sure as hell isn't making you feel like you're not enough. But he doesn't want you to realize that. Oh no, because the moment you do, the game is over. The moment you see through his lies, he loses control. And that's what terrifies him. I read a story recently about a woman who gave everything to a man like this. Her time, her loyalty, her love. She poured herself into him. And what did he do? He ghosted her, left her with nothing but unanswered questions and broken promises. And then, when he was bored or lonely, he came crawling back, spinning the same tired excuses. I'm sorry, he'd say, I wasn't ready. And do you know what she did? She forgave him, again and again, until one day she woke up. She saw through his lies, and she left. She went silent. And that silence? It drove him mad, because the power he thought he had over her was gone. So why are you still making excuses for him? Why are you letting him turn you into someone who doubts her worth? Look at yourself. Is this who you want to be? Someone who waits by the phone for a text that may never come? Someone who lets a man's inconsistency dictate her happiness? You're smarter than this. You're stronger than this. And it's time you start acting like it. Say this out loud. I owe him nothing. I owe myself everything. Write it in the comments. Declare it to the universe. But most importantly, declare it to yourself. Because when you truly believe it, You take back every ounce of power he thought he had over you. And that's the moment his world crumbles. This is just the beginning. Stay with me, because what's coming next will show you not only how to rise from this pain, but how to become the woman he'll regret losing for the rest of his life. Let's keep going. Number 2, the game he's playing. So, let's cut straight to it. Do you know what he's really doing? He's playing a game, and not just any game. A twisted, manipulative game where he makes all the moves, and you're left chasing, wondering, hoping. But here's the harsh truth. He's not confused, he's not unsure, and he's definitely not just figuring things out. He knows exactly what he's doing. Every move he makes, every word he says, or doesn't say, is calculated to keep you hooked, keep you doubting, and keep you right where he wants you. And the worst part, you've been letting him get away with it. Let's break this down. First, there's the breadcrumbing. Oh, he's an expert at that, isn't he? He gives you just enough to keep you coming back for more. A sweet text here, a miss you there, and suddenly you're holding on to these crumbs like they're a feast. But let's be real, crumbs don't make a meal. And you deserve the whole damn table. But he's not giving you that, is he? No, because he knows you'll settle for less. He's trained you to. He's built this entire game around the idea that you'll keep chasing those tiny little scraps of attention, believing that they mean something. But they don't. They mean nothing. Then there's the gaslighting. Oh, he's a master at this too. He makes you question everything, your feelings, your sanity, your worth. You bring up how his actions hurt you, and what does he do? He flips it. Suddenly, you're too sensitive, or overreacting, or reading too much into it. He's the one who disappeared for 3 days, but somehow it's your fault for being upset about it. Do you see the insanity in that? He's not just ignoring your feelings, he's rewriting reality to suit his narrative. And the longer you let him do it, the more you start to believe the lies. But here's the truth. Your feelings are valid. Your pain is real. And no amount of his manipulative bullshit can take that away. And let's not forget the classic hot and cold routine. 1 minute, he's all over you, calling, texting, making you feel like you're the center of his world. And then, just like that, he's gone. Radio silence. And you're left there, staring at your phone, wondering what the hell you did wrong. But you didn't do anything wrong. This is just another move in his game. He pulls you close to make you feel secure, then pushes you away to keep you on edge. It's control, plain and simple. He wants you to feel unsteady, to keep questioning, to keep chasing, and every time you do, he wins. He's like a kid with a yo-yo, up and down, and you're letting him hold the string. Every time he pulls, you come running. Every time he drops you, you sit there, waiting for him to pick you back up. But let me ask you something. How long are you going to let him keep playing? How long are you going to let him treat you like a toy instead of a person? Because that's what he's doing. And the longer you stay, the more you're telling him it's okay. I read about a woman recently who went through this exact same thing. She loved a man who ghosted her, came back with apologies, then ghosted her again. Over and over the cycle repeated, and every time she convinced herself it would be different. But it wasn't. It never is. Do you know why? Because men like this don't change. They don't suddenly wake up one day and realize they've been treating you like garbage. No, they keep doing it because it works. Because you let it work. Do you see what he's doing? He's not confused. He's not unsure. He knows exactly what he's doing, and you're letting him get away with it. Every time you answer his call, every time you forgive his silence, every time you convince yourself that this time will be different, You're giving him permission to keep playing. And why? Why are you doing this to yourself? Do you really believe this is what you deserve? Because it's not. You know it's not. Here's the thing about his game. It only works if you play along. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop feeding into his nonsense, the moment you stop letting his actions dictate your emotions, that's the moment he loses. And trust me, he will lose. Because when a woman stops chasing, when she steps back and takes her power back, there's nothing more terrifying to a man who thought he had control. The moment you stop reacting to his game is the moment he realizes he's lost control. And that, my dear, is when the tables turn. So, look at yourself. Look at what he's turned you into. Someone who jumps at every text, who loses sleep over his silence, who questions her worth because of his inconsistency. Is this who you want to be? Is this what you want for your life? Because you deserve so much more than this. You deserve someone who doesn't play games, someone who doesn't make you feel like you're not enough, someone who doesn't make you fight for the bare minimum. Say it with me. I don't play his game. I take back my power. Write it in the comments, shout it to the universe, but most importantly, believe it. Because the moment you do, the moment you step away from his manipulative bullshit, you win. And trust me, nothing will haunt him more than the silence you leave behind. Stay with me, because what's coming next will show you how to take that silence and turn it into the one thing he never saw coming, the strength that makes you unforgettable. Let's keep going. Number 3, the power of silence. He thought your tears would be his victory. He thought your pain would be his proof of control. But what he didn't expect, your silence. And trust me, silence will cut deeper than any words you could ever say. But stop it. Stop giving him what he wants. This isn't what you've done. Instead of showing him your strength, you've shown him your vulnerability. Instead of leaving him guessing, you've handed him your heart on a platter. No more. No more crying over him. No more checking your phone for his texts. No more letting him believe that he holds all the power. Starting now, you go silent. Completely. You stop explaining. You stop chasing. You stop playing his game. Silence is your strongest weapon. He can't argue with it. He can't manipulate it. It leaves him alone with his thoughts. And trust me, that's his worst nightmare. The moment you stop speaking, he's left to hear his own lies echoing in his head. All the excuses he made, all the games he played, all the ways he tried to control you, it all comes crashing down when there's no response from you. And suddenly, the power shifts. He's no longer the one pulling the strings. You are. Think of silence like a mirror. When you stop talking, when you stop reacting, he's forced to look at himself. And what he sees, he won't like it. Because without your attention, without your emotional energy, he's left to face the truth of who he really is. A man who played with a good woman's heart and now has nothing to show for it. Silence doesn't just reflect his actions back to him, it magnifies them. I read about a woman who went through something eerily similar. She found out her boyfriend was cheating on her after years of devotion. At first, she confronted him, yelling, crying, begging for answers. And what did he do? He twisted it, made excuses, and even had the audacity to blame her for his betrayal. But then she did something he didn't expect. She went silent. No texts, no calls, no explanations. She blocked him on everything and disappeared from his life like she never existed. At first, he didn't care. He thought she'd come crawling back like she always did. But weeks turned into months, and that silence, it ate him alive. He showed up at her house unannounced, called her from random numbers, sent long emails, apologizing and begging for another chance. But by then, she was long gone, living her life on her own terms. That silence broke him in ways her words never could. Now, it's your turn. You block him on every platform. No, you don't need to keep the door open or stay friends. You close that door, lock it, and throw away the key. You don't answer his calls or texts. Every time you respond, you're giving him exactly what he wants, your attention. Stop giving it to him, and you stop posting anything designed to get his attention. No cryptic quotes, no "look how happy I am without you" selfies. That's still playing the game, and you're done playing. Instead, focus on yourself, not him. This is the most important part. Use this silence to rebuild yourself. Start that project you've been putting off. Spend time with people who value you. Fall in love with your own life again. And here's the thing, he will notice. Oh, he'll notice. He'll feel that void you've left behind, and it will drive him crazy. He wanted your tears, your anger, your pain. Instead, you gave him nothing. And that void? It'll eat away at him every single day. He'll wonder why you're not calling, why you're not reacting, why you're not there anymore. And while he's busy drowning in his own confusion, you'll be rising above it all. Because silence isn't just about making him regret what he's done. It's about freeing yourself from his grip. It's about choosing peace over chaos, strength over vulnerability, self-respect over heartbreak. It's about showing him and yourself that you don't need him to feel whole. Say this with me. My silence is my strength. Write it in the comments. Declare it to the universe. Declare it to yourself. Because when you embrace this, when you choose to rise above the noise, you become the woman he'll never forget. The one who left him in silence, not because she didn't have anything to say, but because he wasn't worth hearing it. And this is just the beginning. Stay with me, because what's coming next will show you how to take that silence and transform it into the kind of strength that not only heals you, but makes you unstoppable. Let's keep going. Number 4, becoming the woman he can't forget. The best revenge isn't getting him back. It's becoming the version of yourself that he'll never get to experience. Let that sink in for a moment. The version of you that loves herself fiercely, that doesn't settle for crumbs, that knows her worth. That's the woman he'll regret losing for the rest of his life. But let's be real. The woman you are now, the one who's sitting here questioning her value because of a man who treated her like an option, isn't that woman yet. And it's time to change that. You don't get revenge by plotting or playing games. No, you rise above it all. You take the pain he left you with and turn it into the fire that fuels your transformation. And when you come out the other side, you won't even recognize yourself, and neither will he. You're like a phoenix, my dear, burnt by his lies, his games, his manipulations. But a phoenix doesn't stay in the ashes. It rises. And when it does, it's more radiant and powerful than it's ever been. That's you. That's who you're becoming. But only if you stop looking back at the ashes he left you in and start focusing on building a future he'll never get to be a part of. I read about a woman who did just that. Her breakup was brutal. She gave everything to a man who drained her of her confidence and left her questioning her worth. But instead of chasing him, instead of begging for closure, she made a choice. She poured all that energy into herself. She started hitting the gym, not for revenge, but for her own health. She picked up a new hobby she'd always wanted to try, but never had time for. She threw herself into her career, climbed the ladder, and built a life that made her proud. And you know what happened? A year later he came crawling back, sending texts and messages about how he missed her and how he'd made a mistake. But by then, she was so far ahead, so much stronger, that his words didn't even matter. She didn't need his apology, his validation, or his attention. She had already become the woman he couldn't forget, and the woman he'd never get back. So why waste another minute on someone who treated you like an option? Why are you still giving him space in your mind, in your heart, when he didn't value either? You're a queen. Act like it. Start by focusing on yourself. What's something you've always wanted to do but never did because you were too busy catering to him? Is it a new hobby? A career goal? A fitness journey? Whatever it is, now is the time to dive into it. Not for him, not to make him jealous, but for you. For the woman who deserves to live a full, vibrant, and unapologetically happy life. Surround yourself with positive people. Cut out the ones who drain you, who enable the version of you that settled for less. Find a circle that lifts you up, that sees your worth even when you can't. And most importantly, stop looking back. Stop checking his social media. Stop wondering if he's thinking about you. Stop hoping he'll change. Because the truth is, it doesn't matter if he changes. What matters is that you do. Your absence will haunt him more than your presence ever could. Not because you want it to, but because that's what happens when someone loses a good thing they didn't value. He'll replay every moment, every opportunity he had to treat you right, and he'll hate himself for ruining it. But by then, you'll be so far ahead that his regret won't mean anything to you. Be the woman he can't forget, not because you begged for his attention, but because you walked away and never looked back. Because you became someone so strong, so radiant, that he can't touch you anymore. Say this with me: I am my best revenge. Write it in the comments. Shout it to the universe. But most importantly, believe it. Because when you do, you'll realize that you don't need him or anyone else to validate your worth. You are enough. You've always been enough. This is your time to rise, to rebuild, to become the version of yourself that not only makes him regret losing you, but makes you proud to be you. And trust me, this is only the beginning. Stay with me, because what's coming next will show you how to take that newfound strength and turn it into a life so beautiful, so powerful, that no one will ever take you for granted again. Let's keep going. Number 5. What will happen next? The question that haunts you. The silence you gave him will echo in his mind. He'll replay every moment he took you for granted, and it'll hit him. You're gone for good. Do you know what that feels like for him? It feels like losing control. The same control he used to keep you on edge, to make you doubt yourself, to pull you back whenever you started to slip away. Now, it's gone. The silence you've left behind. It's deafening. He'll sit there with his phone in his hand, waiting for a message that will never come. He'll scroll through your social media, hoping to find a hint that you're still thinking about him. But there's nothing, just a void. And that void, it'll eat at him every single day. At first, he'll brush it off. He'll tell himself you'll come back, like you always did. He'll convince himself that your silence is temporary, that it's just a phase. But as the days turn into weeks, and the weeks into months, reality will start to set in. He'll realize you're not playing hard to get. You're done. And that realization, that's when the regret will hit him like a freight train. He'll remember every time he dismissed you, every time he cancelled plans, every time he gave you just enough to keep you hanging on. He'll think about the nights you cried yourself to sleep, the times you doubted your worth because of his games. and he'll hate himself for it. But by then, it won't matter, because you'll be gone. And you'll look back and wonder why you ever wasted tears on someone so undeserving. You'll realize that his behavior wasn't a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of his own immaturity, his inability to handle a real, genuine connection. And you'll be grateful. Grateful that you walked away. Grateful that you didn't waste another second on a man who couldn't see your value. But let's not sugarcoat it. Getting to that point won't be easy. There will be moments when the silence feels unbearable, when you're tempted to reach out, to break the silence just to see if he cares. Don't. Resist the urge. Because every time you choose silence over reaction, you're choosing yourself. You're choosing growth, strength, and healing. You're not his toy, his backup, or his game. You're the woman he'll regret losing for the rest of his life. But more importantly, you're the woman who chose herself over the chaos he brought into your life. You're the woman who turned her pain into power, who rose from the ashes of his lies and manipulations, and built a life so beautiful, so fulfilling, that his absence feels like a blessing instead of a loss. Stop crying. Stop chasing. Stop hoping he'll change. You've wasted enough time, enough energy, enough tears on someone who didn't deserve them. Take your power back and show him and yourself that you're the one thing he can never have again. This is your moment. Right now, this is where everything changes. You have the power to turn your silence into the loudest statement you've ever made. A statement that says, "I'm done. I'm better. I'm unstoppable." So share your story, write it in the comments, declare to the universe that you're done with the games, the lies, the pain. Join the community of women who've chosen to rise above it all, who've taken the first steps toward transformation. Because you're not alone in this. There's a whole world of strength, love, and empowerment waiting for you. And as for him, let him sit with his regret. Let him carry the weight of his choices, because when he realizes what he's lost, it'll be too late. And that, my dear, is when you'll know you've won. This is just the beginning. Stay with me, because what's coming next will take that strength you found and turn it into something unshakable. A life where you're not just surviving, you're thriving. Let's keep going. Number 6. The Queen Who Rises from Ashes. You wanted me broken. Now, watch me thrive. That's the energy you need to carry now. Not the energy of heartbreak, not the energy of regret, but the energy of unstoppable transformation. He thought he'd left you in ruins, didn't he? He thought his absence would destroy you. But what he doesn't realize, what he never could, is that women like you don't stay down for long. You rise, stronger, brighter, and more powerful than before. Think about it. Right now, you're standing in the ashes of what he left behind. The lies, the manipulation, the pain. It's all sitting there, a reminder of what he did. But those ashes, they aren't your prison. They're your foundation. And from here you rebuild. From here you rise. Let's start with the truth. He's not worth another moment of your time. Not your tears, not your thoughts, not your energy. Every second you spend looking back is a second you could be spending on yourself, on becoming the queen you were meant to be. So stop looking back. The only direction you need to focus on now is forward. You know the story of the phoenix, right? It's a creature of fire and rebirth. It burns, it crumbles, and then it rises, more beautiful and powerful than ever. That's you, burnt by his games, but rising from the wreckage with a strength that even you didn't know you had. And when you rise, my dear, you don't just return to who you were before. You become something entirely new, something unstoppable. Do you know what he's afraid of most? It's not your tears. It's not your anger. It's the thought of you thriving without him. The thought of you becoming everything he didn't believe you could be, and doing it without him. That's what terrifies him. And that's exactly what you're going to do. You start by pouring all the energy you wasted on him into yourself. Remember all those times you rearranged your life for him? All those hours you spent waiting by the phone, hoping for a text that never came. Take all that energy, all that time, and pour it into something that builds you up. A new hobby, a fitness journey, a career goal, anything that makes you feel alive again. Imagine walking into a room months from now as the version of yourself he never got to know. You've been hitting the gym, and it shows. Your career is thriving, and your confidence is radiating from every pore. He won't be able to look at you without seeing the stark contrast between the woman he took for granted and the queen you've become. And in that moment, he'll feel the weight of his mistakes in ways that no words could ever convey. I read about a woman who went through something similar. Her boyfriend broke her heart, left her questioning everything about herself. But instead of staying in that dark place, she turned it into fuel. She started running every morning, took up painting, and poured herself into her work. Within a year, she had a promotion, a new circle of supportive friends, and a glow that couldn't be ignored. And guess who came crawling back? He did, of course, with apologies and promises of change. But by then, she didn't need his validation. She was thriving. She was free. This can be you. In fact, it will be you. But it starts with a decision. The decision to stop living in the shadow of what he did and start building the life you deserve. And don't you dare think for a second that this is about him. No! This is about you, your growth, your happiness, your freedom. Stop wasting another moment on someone who treated you like an option. You're a queen, and it's time you start acting like it. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, who see your worth even when you forget it. Cut out the ones who drain you, who bring negativity into your space. Build a life so full, so beautiful, that it leaves no room for the pain he caused. And don't just rebuild quietly. Do it boldly. Let the world see your transformation. Not for his sake, not to make him jealous, but because you deserve to take up space. You deserve to shine. Every step you take toward becoming the best version of yourself is a step away from the version of you he thought he could break. Your absence will haunt him more than your presence ever could. Not because you wanted it to, but because it's the natural consequence of losing someone like you. Someone who loved deeply, who gave fully, and who deserved so much more than he was willing to offer. Let that be his burden to carry, not yours. Say it out loud. I am the queen who rises. Write it in the comments. Declare it to the universe. But most importantly, believe it. Because once you do, there's no stopping you. You'll become the woman he can't forget. Not because you begged for his attention, but because you walked away and never looked back. Because you rose from the ashes and became something so radiant, so unstoppable, that his games, his lies, his betrayal feel like nothing more than a distant memory. This is it. This is the moment where everything changes, the moment where the tears stop, the doubt fades, and the woman you were always meant to be steps into the light. Look back at the journey you've taken, because it hasn't been easy. You've gone from being a woman who cried over his silence to a woman who wields her own silence like a weapon. You've gone from doubting your worth to realizing your power, from letting yourself be played to becoming unforgettable. You see, This isn't just about him anymore. It never really was. This is about you, about the version of yourself that was hidden beneath all the heartbreak, waiting to emerge. That woman, she's not just strong, she's unstoppable. She doesn't need validation from anyone. She doesn't chase anyone. She's the one who walks away and leaves people wondering what they could have done differently to keep her. That's who you are now. So let's say it together. I am not his regret. I am my own strength. Say it like you mean it. Say it until it becomes the truth you live by every single day. Because when you truly believe it, everything else falls into place. You stop looking for closure from him because you've already closed the door yourself. You stop wondering if he misses you because his regret no longer defines your value. You stop caring about what could have been because what's ahead is so much greater than anything he could have offered. This is your moment. The silence you've given him will scream louder than any argument, any confrontation, or any tear-filled goodbye ever could. It's not just silence, it's a declaration. A declaration that says, "You don't get to define me, you don't get to control me, you don't get to keep me in your game." And when he realizes what he's lost, when he finally understands that the door is closed for good, you'll already be so far ahead that his regret won't even matter, because you'll be living your life, thriving, building, growing. You'll be too busy chasing your dreams, building your empire, and surrounding yourself with people who see your worth to even think about him. And that's what true freedom looks like. That's what true strength feels like. Not the kind that comes from revenge or from trying to make him jealous, but the kind that comes from knowing you've built a life so full, so beautiful, that his absence feels like nothing more than a footnote in your story. So, here's what I want you to do next. If you're ready to take back your power, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this message with another queen who needs to hear it. Let's rise together. Let's create a world where no woman settles for less than she deserves, where no woman lets herself be played, where every woman knows her worth and demands it unapologetically. This is your moment. This is your time. And trust me, what's coming next for you is bigger, brighter, and better than anything you've ever imagined. Keep going, keep rising, and never, ever look back.